Knox Country
Podcast Edition.
I've always been around great songwriters and artists my whole life. I'm Michael Knox. Welcome to my world.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Jason Aldean, and you are listening to my boy Michael Knox on Knox Country
Podcast.
Welcome to the Knox Country Syndicated Radio Show podcast. Hey guys, I'm here with Justin Weaver, a dear old friend of mine. Known you a lot of years. Met you the same day I met Jason Aldean.
Yep.
You know, down in Atlanta, Georgia.
The buckboard.
The buckboard. 2 doors down from the strip club.
Probably.
No, it was.
It was.
And but I remember meeting you. I remember the first time Jason came to town, you came with him too one time because you were writing and doing some stuff. And but I was always a fan from the get-go because you always looked like you had your act together.
Well, compared to the crew that we were rolling with, our buddies, I guess it wasn't that hard to look like you had it together.
But you were a little younger than they were. Is that correct?
Yeah. Well, we were all kind of the same age. We were all in high school together. A lot of those guys were my high school buddies. And Jason and I, we had been hanging out since we were 14, 15 years old in the house gig in Macon.
Well, I just remember you coming to town and wanting to make this move and all this stuff. And so you've come to town, you've made the move, you made the commitment. You know, we cut one of your songs on Jason's first record. When did that first publishing deal come into play? Was that before that or after that?
Before that. My first publishing deal, I guess, was 2003. Ron Stuvey at BMG signed me. And then that was 2005, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Y'all did that record in 2005. And that was my first cut, though. That was the first. And I remember Jason called me. He's like, hey, man, we got one more slot on the record. It was a Friday. And y'all were cutting, I want to say it was a Tuesday. It was either Monday or Tuesday. And he called me. He's like, hey, man, we got one more slot. And the song's Even If I Wanted To. We got this one more slot. Let's write something great. And that was the day before we were writing. That was Thursday night. And I remember sitting down. And I was like, I better come up with something good. And actually, the whole first 3 lines are all about not being able to come up with a song. Like, if you listen to it, it's actually about not being able to write something. So go back and listen to the first 3 lines. And then we sat down and wrote the rest of it that next day and then played video games after we recorded his vocal, as we always did.
But video games, that's all he did back then. He would just disappear and do the all-night video game thing.
Oh, all the time.
But now, my favorite song that you wrote that we recorded is It Ain't Easy. And,
I love it.
you know, when you turned in that demo, man, it was just hard. It was hard to beat the demo anyway. I mean, it was just awesome. The groove is killing me. Still to this day, that's a go-to for me on that record.
Oh, that's awesome. Thanks, man. Yeah, that song's funny because that song almost didn't come to be. Like, we were writing that day, and I remember we started 2 other songs, and both of them were just crap. You know, you start one, you're like, get halfway through it, and you're like, what are we doing? Waste of time. Start another one, and then my publisher, Nate Lowry, comes in, and he goes, y'all want to go? And we to lunch, and then we went to like a meat and 3, of all places. Way to motivate your writers. Fill them up with meat and veggies, like greasy veggies.
And potatoes.
And potatoes. So we come back, and it was like 4 o'clock, and I think the reason it was like so hooky and stuff was because we were just in a mode of being like so full, and we just started singing that chorus over and over.
Well, I love that.
And then we knew it. As soon as we started singing it, we were like, oh my gosh, so we're here. And then it came out like within an hour and a half, we had it.
Okay, now fast forward a little bit, not much, but tell us about your first single you had.
Okay.
Because that was a big deal, because I remember our camp, I remember even me and Jason talking about it, because we loved that song, but I want you to tell the story.
Which one?
Gary Allan.
The Gary Allan single? Well, my first single was actually the Christy Lee Cook, 15 Minutes of Shame. It wasn't a blimp on the radar, but...
That might be why we didn't remember that.
Youch.
Yeah.
It's great
but yeah,
to be
the Gary
friends.
Allan thing, man, that was like right after that. I was a huge fan of Gary, like in high school, man. His first record came out when I was in high school. And man, fast forward, oh golly, that was 14 years later.
Yep.
He cut that song, and I the moment that I heard it, I was like, wow. We wrote that, and it's all a blur. It's one of those songs that just kind of flew out. I knew it. Bill Luther and Brett James and I sat down one morning.
Well, we're talking about Get Off on the Pain.
Yeah, Get Off on the Pain. Yes. we sat down to write, and Brett had the title. He said, "Man, get off on the pain." And I was like, can we say that? Like, is that? And then we just started. I know it's kind of a questionable thing, I was like, I don't know, man. And then once we started kind of like digging into it, the meat of the song, I was like, man, this is really something that, I think dudes actually feel and kind of do, like the self-destructive kind of thing. And
well, I just remember we always felt like that was one that got away from us because it was, we all loved that song, but it was just in between,
it was in a weird space. Yeah. Cause I don't remember if y'all held it or you said, I want to hold it, but you didn't want to hold it up, which I always appreciated that. I thought that was awesome.
Well, we weren't cutting for a while.
Yeah.
But then y'all were still pitching it, and it was, and you were a friend, and you were just like, well, I don't want him to miss something, know? So, but, you started during that time, you got a real good relationship with like Brantley Gilbert and some of these underground artists at the time, but you and Brantley kind of come from the same town, same place, Georgia.
All Georgia boys.
Yeah. Did you meet Brantley back then, or did you just meet him up here in town?
We'd all kind of been in the same circles, and not really becoming friends. Even after Bottoms Up, we weren't like tight till after Bottoms Up. And then that was like our connection of like getting tight and really hanging and going out on the road. And Heather and I would go down and stay with, hang out with him and his wife Amber, and so we got to all be good friends. And
well, tell the story about Bottoms Up.
Bottoms Up, man, that one is in segments, so it's one of those songs that happened over a long period of time. I kind of had that riff and stuff, and there was a road trip coming up to go on the road with Brantley and Brett, and I came up with that riff. And I had another riff, so I'm just kind of coming up with some ideas, and Brett and I were going to get together and brainstorm. And Brett came in and had that title. He's like, "Man, Bottoms Up." And I was like, how do you make that country? And we sat down, and another time immediately started singing the chorus and kind of coming up with that. And then we laid down some rough stuff, and we kind of had, the verses were cool, but it wasn't like Brantley cool, because we had, see you and me rolling like Bonnie and Clyde, yeah. Dun, 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 yeah. So we had scatty kind of stuff, with the track.
Yeah.
And then Brantley came in and just crushed it, of course. He's such a great writer that he was like, oh, dude, this is how it goes. Boom.
And he's got awesome pocket sense.
Oh, so good.
Yeah.
So good. Yeah. And honestly, I got to give him props because he sang that demo and he was absolutely sick as a dog in a hotel room, 2 tracks, and it sounded great. It ended up being great. And then they cut it immediately. Scott knew. He's like, man, this is a single off this next record.
Now, how much Brantley activity have you had?
I had 2 songs on the last record, and then he's got a few for this next record coming up. So.
Yeah, and y'all's way of writing is kind of still the same. You kind of get things rolling and send it out to him.
Yeah, going out on the road, sending stuff to him. A little bit more of that since he's had the baby. The road's kind of gotten crazy.
Yeah.
And he's been off the road a lot. So.
But you enjoy going on the road and writing.
I love it.
Because a lot of writers can't write on the road.
Oh man, I thrive on the road just because of, I feel like I'm away, and that's all I'm thinking about. I don't have to be home or be somewhere else to do something. So I'm there 100%. Like I'll write 12 hours a day.
How are they on the road? Because some writers are real good on the road to write, and some of them just check out.
Well, Brantley's process is pretty dope. Like Brantley, we usually don't start writing till 1:00 in the morning. So 1 a.m. after the show, he does the show, then he does like an after show meet and greet, like does flags. He signs flags and meets with people. So he's not back to the bus till 12:30, 1:00, and then we roll and we'll start writing at that time. We'll write till the sun comes up. And,
crazy.
I asked him one time, it was probably like the 5th or 6th trip we'd been out there, and I was like, yo, dude, what is going on? Why do we do this? Why don't we? And he said, how many phone calls, how many emails have we gotten? I'm like, you're right, dude. Like the world is quiet.
That is smart.
Well, but he is a true singer-songwriter artist.
Yes.
That guy, when I worked with Brantley, I got to cut some stuff on him a while back, but he was so into it, like in the zone of what he's doing, what he wants. And, and he's, he might not be the best singer, might not be the best, songwriter, might not be the best whatever all around, but when you put it all together, man, he was very strong at his craft.
Oh yeah. he's Brantley Gilbert to the core.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing you know that you're not going to miss that.
But those are true artists, man. The guys that
totally true artists.
aren't, you know, I mean, because no offense, when you got somebody who's too good of a singer, then they kind of don't try as hard over here.
Right.
And when you got somebody that's too good of a writer, then they don't try as hard over
Right.
here. But he puts it all together so well. But he's so in touch, man, with what he can say and what he should
Right.
say.
And as a writer, man, dude, that's invaluable. And, you know, as a producer, you know, it's like somebody that'll give you feedback, you know, hey, I'm doing this, I'm thinking this, and they go, well, that's not really great. Dude, I can use that, you know?
Yeah, that's good. That's good because I knew you and Brantley had a real good past, and a lot of people don't understand the guys behind the artists sometimes, you know, are really motivating them too. And I know you're a big part of his career.
Yeah, you know, I mean, a big thing with like him is like he loves when I come on the bus and like kind of have something started or have a beat, or even if I'm creating right then, just start playing guitar or creating a beat or coming up with an idea, start singing something. Like he really feeds off of that. And what's awesome is you could come in with something that maybe you're doing that isn't so Brantley Gilbert. Like he's got a special thing where he can then take that and make it Brantley Gilbert. There are not many artists that can do that. Either, and I'm not that good at that. Like if somebody brought a song that's not my kind of thing, I don't know how to then turn that into my thing. Like it's really kind of hard. Brantley, no way. He knows every time how to kind of just flip that switch and turn it BG.
He knows exactly who he is.
Yeah.
And what he wants to say.
Totally. Hey guys, this is Justin Weaver, and you're listening to Knox Country
Podcast.
All right, well, let's talk about the song that kind of put you in crossover world.
Okay.
That like I'm Gonna Lose You.
Yeah.
I mean that took you out of Nashville a little bit. I mean, well, that put you in another place.
It
I mean,
did.
how did that actually happen? Because that's the artist that cut it's not a country artist, and you know, but you know, it is such a singer-songwriter song.
Yeah, and I mean, we wrote it, and she, you know, Meghan wasn't an artist at the time.
Meghan Trainor.
Yeah, Meghan Trainor wasn't an artist at the time. I met Meghan through Carla Wallace. Carla had called and said, hey, I got this new girl. I want you to, she's just graduated high school, or still in high school, and I want you to try her out before I sign her. Like, just tell me what you think. And it was actually me and Eric Dillon were writing, just the two of us. And Eric and I were like, sure, send her over. We were writing something actually for my record. I was just doing a songwriter record, and it was kind of pop and a little unique. And Meghan came walking in, and she started singing, and immediately I was like, what is going on? She sounded like a 35-year-old black woman.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is amazing, you know? And I knew immediately she was an old soul and just had music to her core. And that relationship started off, and we kept writing. And then one day I got her and Caitlin Smith in the room together, and we sat down, and I had actually had a dream the night before. I had this title called Chasing After You. And I had a dream, and my wife in the dream had actually, it was like an old black and white movie, and she actually disappeared. And right before she disappeared, she said, I just want you to love me like you're going to lose me.
Wow.
And I was telling them this story, and I was like, I had this title, Chasing After You, you know, and this is the story, blah, blah. And she looks at, Caitlin and Meghan are sitting on the floor looking at me, shaking their heads. They were like, no, there's our freaking title. Love me like you're going to lose me.
That's awesome.
You know? And so that's...
So what brought the duet on? Do you know any of that story?
Yeah. So her manager is John Legend's manager also. So bass had hit. So bass is happening, and she's trying to round out her album. She picks Like I'm Gonna Lose You. Chris Gelbuda comes in, and it was actually a reggae song. When we wrote it, it had a reggae feel. Kelly Clarkson had it on for a year.
Yeah.
But she was having a baby and all this other stuff that her album wasn't getting made. So Meghan picked it up. Chris Gelbuda comes in, produces it 50 style like she's doing. John Legend heard that immediately, like through their management, and was like, I got to be on that. That's incredible. And like begged her to like get on the song.
Well, that was a big hit, dude. I mean, it you know, I saw it on a lot of award shows. I saw it getting a lot of legs. I saw it being played everywhere, you know, and I mean, but that had to really open up Nashville doors with you, and it put you kind of in another place around town.
It did. You know, it was a unique world too, going out to LA and like working in LA and seeing how that side of the industry, it's a lot different than Nashville, you know?
Yeah.
But I met a lot of nice people out there, and it was cool going out to the ASCAP Awards. We went out there twice.
You like that process out there?
How is it different?
It's just different. I don't want to say I don't like it as much. I don't really, because I don't think I know it enough to say that. But I feel like Nashville's a little more tighter. Like you get to know people a little more. And I feel like out there it's a little more competitive, like in a way that, I don't know, people camp more. Not to say that Nashville's not campy now, but so I don't love that. I love how Nashville is.
Yeah.
And I get why people from LA want to come here. And, you know, I have true friends here, I think. People that I would call friends rather than just business colleagues.
Knox Country Podcast Edition.
Some of you know me as a record producer for acts like Jason Aldean and Thomas Rhett. Others know me as the son of rock and roll legend Buddy Knox, Party Doll fame back in 1957. I'm Michael Knox. Welcome to my world. You're listening to Knox Country
Podcast.
Hey, this is Keith Urban.
What's up, y'all? It's your boys here, Florida Georgia Line.
Hey, this is Little Big Town.
And you're listening to Knox Country.
You've entered Knox Country.
Welcome back to the Knox Country Podcast. Well, man, the first time you heard the cut, I mean, do you remember? Did you hear it before? Was it the radio? Or
I heard it before John Legend was on it.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Megan sent it to me, and she was like, "Hey, check this out." And then she texted me like 30 minutes later and goes, "I think John Legend's going to do a vocal on it tomorrow." And then she texted me like the very next day. She goes, "John just cut it. I've got a rough of his vocal," and she sent it to me, and it was it cut my head off. Like immediately, and it was just his vocal, no verb, nothing, just him.
Yeah,
like leveled me.
So then you hear it on the radio.
Oh yeah, I don't even remember the first time there.
I mean, because you're a pretty emotional guy. I mean, were you crying?
Wow.
Were you driving down the road crying in the car when you heard it, going, "I'm gonna get to buy a Hummer"?
No, I don't remember the first time that I heard it. That's what's funny. The first time
you blacked out. You done blacked out.
I'll tell you the coolest story about hearing that though, because you know, not that I get used to hearing your songs on the radio, because I'm not saying that because I love it every time. You know that, but the coolest time of ever hearing that song was Bed Bath & Beyond.
That's awesome.
So I'm standing there. Now, what's cool is it was a college couple, so young. They might have been married, but they were really young, and they're sitting over there, and they were absolutely standing right next to me, singing it. Like singing it out and dancing together.
And you wanted to so bad.
Did you not say, "I wrote that"?
I did not say it.
Yeah, but you wanted to.
I wanted to just go, "That is awesome." Like that makes it worth it. Like that's freaking awesome.
Did you really walk up to him and tap him and go, "Hey, I wrote that"?
I wish I had. No.
I'm about to bust
Did
one
they
out.
mace you, and
I'm
that's
about
why
to bust one out in here. I wrote that.
Did they mace you, and that's why you don't want to talk about
She
it?
screams and maces me. There's a weird guy on the dish aisle saying that he wrote the Meghan Trainor song.
But that's awesome, dude. I mean, now from your new publishing deal with Peer Music, you just signed there.
Yeah.
From there to the future, I mean, where's the next place for you? Is it moving into production? Is it moving into some other things?
I think so. I think production and working with an artist or something, like concentrating. I think getting focused more. I feel like my career is more on a path of focus rather than in the past. I was kind of spread thin, discovering, which is cool. I love the artistry of discovering, and I think now is time to put my head down and find something that I can just pour myself into. A little more focused, like I said, and my calendar, my days are a little more focused than they have ever been, and I'm excited. I think the next 4 years are going to be killer.
Now, a lot of people don't like going out on the road like you do. I mean, can you sleep on the road? I mean, man, when I'm in those bunk beds, I can't sleep
like a baby.
And I've tried the top bunk, which is horrible. I get on the bottom bunk, and all I do is feel like every time I hear that vibration, we're going off the road. We're dying, and, so I'm horrible sleeping on the road.
No, man, I sleep good. I love it. I don't know. I do well on the road. The hardest part for me is just the adjustment, having 3 kids and a wife and coming back to Nashville to like a regular schedule. Cause I'm usually a 6:30, 7 a.m. guy. I'm up. But when I'm on the road, like I said, I'm usually going to bed then.
Yeah.
So it just totally flip-flops. That's the hardest part, but I'm getting better at that, I think.
Does your lovely wife love when you go on the road too? Don't lie.
When you come home, is there balloons and wine bottles laying around the house?
Or is it like, oh, man.
I thought you were going to say balloons for me.
Yeah,
You're saying the party that they had when I left.
The party they had. You know?
No, Heather's really good about it. You know, she takes it with stride. You know, she's like, get out there and get some of that money.
There you go.
Now,
go, Heather.
When I'm on the road, the worst part about it is when I'm on the top bunk and I wake up about 4 a.m. to having to go to the bathroom, and you forget you're 8 feet in the air.
Yeah, that.
You know?
And me being a short guy, I'm with you. Like on the top bunk, I flew out of that a few times, buddy. Trust me.
I was in the middle bunk once and just rolled out of it. Thank God I was in the middle bunk, because that's only 5 feet in the air. You know, but I have woke up in midair on a bus before. And then you know, Jason's back there in the big bed. You know, I've never rode out of my king size bed back here, and we're in there in that daggum stripe of a bunk bed in there.
Hey guys, it's Shalacy. Check us out on the web at knoxcountry360.com or on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at knoxcountry360.
But that's good, man. That's good stuff. And your next place you want to go is production. I mean, are there any bigger goals that you're looking at down the road?
I mean, I'd love to be more on like record side, like doing some of that stuff. But I haven't even thought about because I still love the art of it. Whatever. If I ever went like to an administrative or executive kind of position, I don't like it'd have to be something super creative. I don't know what, and I don't even know what those guys do that would kind of fit that. So production is the only thing I can think at this point, because I still love writing. I think I got another 10 years of writing in me. I know of right now. So writing, producing lets me do that, and I can take project by project. And if I focus in more, I think with the production, then I can write for it. So they kind of go hand in hand. Yeah. And in the past, like production, if I get too many projects going on, it can kind of spread you thin. It's hard. It's hard to do both. It really is. But I think picking up 1 or 2 artists to work with, I'd love to find one. One would be a goal. Yeah. I'm kind of looking for that now. Just one. So baby steps. Baby steps.
Well, let's go back in time when Jason used to be nervous when I called. You know, when I actually had authority and you were his right-hand man out there on the road. He's having to learn songs for a showcase for me. Yeah. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I did.
And then he forgot all the words to like 4 songs.
I don't kind of remember that, but
it was down in Georgia. He played in that club and just forgot a couple of songs.
Oh my gosh.
And it was awesome, you know, cuz
that's right.
Now he doesn't care what I think.
You know, back then it was kind of crazy because I remember that showcase, putting it together. At that point I was going to go to college. So I told him, you know what, man, I'm just going to take a break from music for a little bit. I really wanted to go to college and get that experience. So I was kind of being a jerk about it. Like, I was like, man, let's get some seriousness going on here. Like, if you're going to Nashville and you know, my high school buddies are kind of goofing off. And I remember they came to like one of the rehearsals, one of the first ones, and they weren't really rehearsed up. And I'm like, we should just sit down and be able to play these songs. For you to have to go back and listen and learn something. I remember kind of being mean about it. Yeah. I don't know if Jason remembers that, or because Jason was always like that with me. Jason and I were always kind of a creative force together. Like, we were the two that would butt heads the most. And it was just because we had ideas, and you know, we would suss it out, you know, fight it out. That's the only way to get creative stuff out there, you know. And the other guys are just kind of standing around going, okay, we like that one, you know.
He always talked positive about you. You know, when he first came to town and we were talking about stuff, and when you came to town, he was like, hey man, can you meet with my friend Justin? He was my band leader. I don't know if you remember coming into my office and meeting with me in Nashville, and the way he described you was with a lot of respect. He said, man, he might not be an artist, but he's really got his act together and he's really talented. And then that's when I put you in the room with Jeff Stevens that time and had y'all play around with a song together.
Yeah, that was fun. Yeah, we wrote It's Love. You remember that?
Oh, yeah.
It's Love.
It's Love.
Yeah, that was funny.
But that's cool, man.
That was good times. You know what? And that came out of that, my favorite Jeff Stevens story, if I may. Like,
And Jeff Stevens is Luke Bryan's producer, just so you know.
Jeff is awesome. So I tell this at any kind of seminar, anywhere I talk. Like anytime I'm talking to new songwriters, I'm like, you want to learn like a lesson. This was my lesson, my songwriter lesson. And Aldean was there. So Jeff and I had already written because you'd set it up. Well, fast forward, I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years later, I'd graduated college and moved here. So me and Jeff and Jason are sitting in a writer's room, and Jeff goes, we're all talking, and I was like, hey, Jeff, like we should get back together and write again. And he just kind of smiled at me and looked, and Jason's like got this weird look on his face, and Jeff goes, now, why would I do that, Justin? What do you have to offer me? What could you possibly bring to the right that I need?
Wow.
And I was like, but you know what? That was a lesson to me that I will never forget. And Jeff wasn't being a jerk. He wasn't being an ass. It was honestly just one of those like wake up calls of like, you know what? If you want to write with somebody that has a lot to bring to you, then bring something to them. Yeah. And that's when I thought, okay, I'm going to get my act together and start coming up with ideas and coming up with things. And then I can pitch ideas and pitch things to writers, bigger writers than me. Yeah. And that's how I started getting uprights. And then after that, it was like I got my deal, and all of my uprights were always based on that.
So, Lacey, that's what you call the glass is half full.
What are you talking about?
Right there. When a songwriter says that to you and you leave there with a positive outcome.
I'd have probably punched him.
Well, don't worry about it, because you know what? Aldean got a big laugh right in my face. He was bowled over. Boo! He was like, no way, you just got burned. Like, he's like looking at me. I'm like...
That's friendship.
That is friendship. I was like, thanks for backing me up, buddy.
So when you first moved here, did you have any odd jobs, like just or any kind of jobs to try to earn a living?
I did.
Like maybe did you dabble in like some web designing?
I built some
like
websites.
That?
I built websites.
I didn't bring it up.
Well, the reason why you're even bringing this up is because I think I still owe Michael Knox 2 websites.
Hey, I got the domain names right now. Let's roll. No.
I don't know how to program that stuff anymore. Get out of here. Technology's come a long way since then. Jeez.
I think he was doing like clip art back then.
Yeah. We didn't even have cell phones like we have now. We had cell phones like Michael Knox has.
These are too small. We had the big ones, I think, the military ones.
And for those of you who do not know, Michael Knox does, in fact, carry a flip phone.
People are jealous.
For real.
People
are jealous how hip I am with my flip phone.
I don't know if I would call it that.
But I want to say that you helped me get another gig. Did you? I don't know if you remember this, but Word needed a text editor.
Yeah.
And you mentioned my name.
Yeah,
I got a lot of work from that, dude.
Because we had just bought Word at Warner Chapel, and they were in our building, and they were saying something, and I go, man, I got this guy that does my websites.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I did everything. I wrote articles for them. They would send me articles that other writers had written, and then I would edit them. So in the end, I became an editor for Word Music, all their web design or even written stuff. Like I would go through and make sure it was all written correctly. And
we might need one of those on staff now. So
you still doing that?
I know.
You still doing that?
I'll trade you some of that for websites, some websites.
Nice. Okay, probably be better because my websites will look like an Atari,
Well, dude, I love you coming by. Me and you go back a long ways. You're like family to me, and
I feel the same, buddy.
Love I get to hang with you as much as I do. So thank you for coming by and sharing a lot of this mess with us.
Well, thanks for having me, buddy. This is awesome.
Knox Country.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Knox Country Podcast. Special thanks go out to co-host Miss Lacey Griffin and producer Donnie Walker. See you next time.
You've entered Knox Country Outtakes.
Playing throughout the house, and then he starts dropping the F-bomb all over the place. My wife tends to freak out, so I'm very careful. We don't listen to Post Malone.
And if you're listening to the edited version, there's like no lyrics.
There's no lyric, right? It's a great beat, It's awesome. Like the track is dope. So bottoms up, we had just written it, and I come home, and I'm playing it for my girls. I'm just playing it on the bed. I'm just kind of hanging out, going back over the song, going, man, this is pretty cool. And my girls started doing a dance, and immediately I was like, no, that's not what the song is about. That's not what it.
So they were bottoms up, and
yes, and I was like, no.
Is that Is that a twerking thing? Is that how you say that?
Not twerking.
How do you say it?
It's twerking.
Twerking?
Oh, gosh.
Knox Country
Podcast edition.